This is CNN
I need
Breaking
to
News.
head up to Capitol Hill. Mani Raju, you are there. What is going on?
Yeah, very significant breaking news. Michael Cohen, the president's former lawyer, longtime fixer, has agreed to testify before the House Oversight and Reform Committee on February 7th. This is according to Elijah Cummings, the chairman of the committee, releasing a statement saying that Cohen will testify before this committee. And of course, Cohen has been a central player, very close to this president. Of course, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years in prison for multiple charges, including 2 campaign finance-related charges in which he allegedly he admitted to making being involved with payments to silence women who alleged affairs with this president in the heat in the days when the running up to the 2016 campaign. Federal prosecutors, of course, said that Trump directed Cohen to make those payments. The president has denied that, but those will be key questions that will be asked at this oversight hearing. Also, Cohen admitted to lying to Congress in previous classified testimony about a Trump Tower Moscow project that the Trump organization was pursuing back in the early part of 2016 and in late 2015. He had said at the time to the committees that that occurred in January 2016. It ended at that point, but it turns out it was actually June of 2016 that the court papers revealed that he was involved with that. So questions undoubtedly will come about that involvement, about what happened to the Trump Tower Moscow project and the president's knowledge and involvement, then candidate Trump, while what was happening with that project while the Russian interference campaign was ongoing. And on top of that, court filings also revealed about Michael Cohen that he spoke to a Russian in 2015 who had offered, quote, political synergy with the Trump campaign while discussing the Trump Tower Moscow project. What does that mean? And those will be questions that members will ask at a hearing that we believe is going to be public, because Michael Cohen himself said so in a statement to CNN. He said, "I look forward to having the privilege of being afforded a platform with which to give a full and credible account of the events which have transpired." He said he agreed to testify in furtherance of my commitment to cooperate and provide the American people with answers. Now, this testimony on February 7th in front of the House Oversight Committee will be the first time that Cohen has come before Congress in a public setting. There's been those private testimonies before, first time since he cooperated with the Mueller investigation as well. And also, Brianna, a real sign of the Democratic efforts to oversee and investigate this president, really the first aggressive effort to investigate this president, the controversies, the scandals that have occurred that Republicans, when they were in charge, have decided not to look into. Elijah Cummings actually asked the chairman of this same committee, Trey Gowdy, when the Republicans ran this in the last Congress, to look into the Michael Cohen situation, these payments. Gowdy did not do that. Now Cummings, in his first days in power, plans to do just that, announcing this testimony, which Michael Cohen says will be public, and that's going to happen on February 7th. A very, very significant development that we all be watching. Brianna.
Oh, indeed, Mani Raju. Stand by for us. Shimon Prokupez, I want to bring you in on this. Michael Cohen has testified before Congress before, but we have not seen it. So we are expecting now, with Democrats doing oversight in the House, they control the House now, that this is going to be a public hearing. And since we know from court documents that Michael Cohen lied to Congress, we're expecting that he will, set the record straight here. How damning might this be?
This perhaps could be the most damning day for the president and this White House come February 7th. You have someone that's going before members of Congress in public who has already implicated the president in a crime. The Department of Justice has implicated the president in a crime in court filings. Michael Cohen stood before a court, swore to tell the truth, and said that the president directed him to make these payments, that the president was part of these payments. This is what's going to go on in this hearing. For all we know right now, from everything we know, that the hush payments, the payments to the women who have accused the president of having an affair, who say they had an affair with the president, these women, perhaps these payments is what's going to cause the president could be the most problematic parts of this hearing for the president. We don't know much about the Moscow project. We don't know much more about the synergy in terms of the political stuff, but we do know a lot about the hush payments because that's already been out there in court. It's been documented by the Department of Justice. They certainly believe what Michael Cohen has said. He's pleaded guilty to it. And, you know, this hearing also is going to come a month before Michael Cohen is set to report to prison. So he's probably going to look to curry favor with the court. He could go to the court and say, hey, I've been before before members of Congress. I've told the truth. I hope by doing this, you can give me a lighter sentence. This is going to be a monumental day. You know, it's almost like Nixon era, Watergate era, and that you're going to have a lawyer, the president's lawyer, his personal attorney, come in and essentially tell us that the president directed him to make these payments, how the president directed him to make these payments, perhaps others that may have been involved in this. And really, when you think about what is the goal here for Michael Cohen, and it's going to be to take down the president, right? He's going to come in and he's going to list in every which way the president was part of these payments. The other thing this may indicate to us is that the Department of Justice has signed off on this. Certainly, we've seen members of Congress not wanting to interfere in any parts of this investigation. We don't yet know how much detail he's going to go into about the Moscow project, but it would seem that the Department of Justice certainly has told members of Congress, if you want him to appear, before you go ahead, we are pretty much done with him, and we'll see. But this is going to be a big, big day in terms of for this White House. And the other thing that's going to be interesting to see is much of what we saw around when Comey, the last time someone really important in this investigation testified before members of Congress publicly was Comey. And remember everything, the attention surrounding that. We're certainly going to see that here. And what is the White House going to do to try and discredit in this next month? What are they going to do to try and discredit Michael Cohen even further? It's going to be a really interesting time, something we haven't seen in quite some time.
And they will question his credibility. All right, Shimon, stay with me if you can. I want to bring in Gloria Borger, our chief political analyst. And you know, when you look at Michael Cohen, his team, Gloria, has often referred to him as the John Dean in this story. They're comparing him to Nixon's White House counsel, who testified before Congress, essentially turned on President Nixon. And a lot of people looked at what John Dean was saying. They actually didn't believe it, but then there would be corroborating evidence. He came out and he said the most, what seemed like outlandish things publicly to Congress, and then they ended up being true. Is that the expectation of what's going to happen here? Certainly the outlandish aspect of it, I would say.
Well, you know, I think what you're going to hear from Michael Cohen, and I have no idea what questions the members of Congress are going to ask, is him trying to set the record straight here. Because don't forget, he did lie to Congress previously. And I think this is somebody who, you know, is supposed to go to jail in March and wants to set the record straight publicly against Donald Trump. As Shimon was saying, and I agree with him 100%, you know, this is something the White House is going to be watching very, very carefully, because it's going to turn into a he said, he said. And don't forget that these two men have a very long relationship. I mean, this is Shakespearean, that somebody who worshipped Donald Trump, basically, was his most loyal soldier since 2006, is now going to appear before Congress to publicly testify against the president and tell his story, which no doubt will differ from the president's story in many ways. And yes, you can make the case that he's trying to save himself to a great degree. And that's probably true. But on the other hand, I think he also has this sense that he wants to tell the American people what he knows. And he has released a statement which says, in furtherance of my commitment to cooperate and provide the American people with answers, I've accepted this invitation, and I look forward to having the privilege of being afforded a platform with which to give a full and credible account of the events which have transpired.